I think Jordan Peterson's conclusions are terrific. His foundation is weak.
All of the religious people that I've had on here have said what you said there, which is that, yes, of course, at the micro individual level, you can have atheists. I've got plenty of their books right here who are friends, who are good, moral, decent people. But it's almost that you can't organize a society around that, which is sort of, loosely, that's the Jordan Peterson perspective on this, which I think you probably prescribe to.
Yes, I think Jordan Peterson's conclusions are terrific. His foundation is weak. I think that the edifice he has built on his presuppositions, I would love to get together with him one day because I love his...
I will see if I can make it happen.
Could you do that?
Yeah, my pleasure.
It would be an honor because I mean, the way he was treated at Cambridge, you know, and his plan to go there is totally unlikable. What I mean, an educational institution to do that to a man of his repute and his capability.
You know, just briefly, the saddest part about that is, you probably know, I was on tour with him for the year, so I was with him when he found out he was getting the fellowship at Cambridge. It was the happiest I've ever seen him. And the idea that, putting aside why they did it, he has spread the ideas that you're talking about here, even if you don't agree with his methods completely. Yeah. He has done more to spread these ideas across the world in the last 2 years than anyone on earth, I would argue. And they decided, no, you can't study
And I
here.
think he is outstanding. You know, I couldn't stand up to his intellectual prowess. He's a man of incredible ability and courage. And he's from Toronto, you know, and I'm from Toronto, actually. I'm from Delhi. I moved to Toronto. My family's all in Toronto. My wife's from Toronto. I have a very great respect for Jordan Peterson. But let me give you an illustration. Yeah. In Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, there's a building called the Wexner Center for the Arts, supposedly the first postmodern building. And I asked the person, what is a postmodern building? I know what postmodern philosophy is. What's a postmodern building? He said, well, the architect said if life itself has no purpose, why should our buildings have any purpose? And so he built it with no particular purpose in mind, you know, stairways that go nowhere.
I was going to say, where does the elevator go?
And so he said, what do you think of it? I said, I have one question. Did you do the same with the foundation? You cannot fool with the foundation. You can fool with the infrastructure. And so to me, when Peterson talks of absolutes, when Peterson talks of right and wrong, not so much right and left, but right and wrong, his conclusions are very good. But the only reason I think those conclusions stand, if there is an ultimate eternal purpose for life itself. Otherwise, it's just one ideology against another, especially, dare I suggest, because of a pluralistic society in which we live. People start from different points in the beginning of the argument, and that to me is where I think there is the weakness. But his conclusions and his arguments I find very persuasive and very likable.
If ultimately the conclusions are right, let's say, and you know, you can argue about the little methods to get there, do you think that can be enough in and of itself?
Had you not used the word enough, I would have said yes. Do you think that's valuable? Do you think that's a good way to at least have a culture?
I can see why you're not going to go with enough. Okay, I got it.
But the foundation part of it is, to me, indispensable, because that's what you have built your theory on. However, for coexistence, for respectability, for civility, I think it's good, and I think that's why I enjoy talking with somebody like you. Even disagreement can be allowed, provided you don't get disagreeable in the process. And I think Peterson is very impressive that way. I'd love to talk to him on why he has not moved in that one step. See, Dennis Prager, for example. Dennis Prager and I have had several dialogues.
You're going through my greatest hits over here.
Great man, funny, articulate, intellectual. But we do agree on one thing as a starting point, that the ultimate pursuit of life for Prager and for me was communion with God. And the starting point is that God has a moral law at work in this universe. When you start from that, even if you come up with some divergent discussions on who this God is, you can have intelligent debate. But if you start purely from an autocracy of good and bad, then you run into a problem in a pluralistic culture.
So you can't start from the position that we all can have our thoughts and that they're all sort of equal, because the conversation can sort of never get anywhere, versus that there is some moral authority beyond us, and then what you may believe related to Jesus is obviously different than, say, what Dennis Prager believes, but you relish in that conversation, basically.
Yeah, and you know, this is really what I'd said in that wonderful conversation with Ben Shapiro, whom I admire so much, a great, great thinker. And you know, I said to Ben, there's a struggle going on right now. It's between the two words egalitarianism and elitism. And as I said to him, we are meant to be equal as people, but not all ideas are equal. We have reversed it. We have made an elitism of people and an egalitarianism of ideas, and that is flawed as a starting point. So if I respect all of my fellow human beings, regardless of what their view is, and see them of intrinsic worth, not worth given by the government or state, but an intrinsic valuable entity, we can converse and dialogue, and ultimately truth will triumph in the end. And so I think it is important to have civility, which is lost in America. What America is witnessing right now is the destruction of sensible dialogue.
Do you think that's happening across the West? It seems to me the amount of emails I get and what I'm reading and from the countries I visited in the last year, it's not just the US, but it's starting to happen everywhere in different degrees.
Yeah,
that the West is grappling with something.
I think so, but you know, it's also happening in the East. The only difference is in the East it is squelched right from the beginning. There's no free expression in China. I mean, China is making huge strides in this world, I think, in a demagogic way globally, while we're trying to worry about each other's tax returns out here. They are building a global empire, and we're not taking note of what it is they're doing. It's happening even in my homeland in India. There's a lot of trouble beneath the surface in the invasion of the private belief and so on. The thing is, in America is a commercial culture. Everything spreads faster, so we notice it more here. And I've now lived here for many years, and I'm saddened to see what we are doing to ourselves, because this is a great nation. This is a great foundation. So I came in here as a stranger, and God gave me the blessing of coming here and raising my family and enjoying success. I don't think I'd have enjoyed this back from whence I came. But now what we are doing is the vitriol, the invective, the poisonous barbs and statements. We can't seem to disagree without bringing the person down. Stay with you know, as a debater, you know, we don't go with ad hominem arguments. That's a sign of weakness. Anybody who attacks you personally, David, is telling you they can't deal with your arguments, so they're dealing with you.
So I actually wasn't planning on going here, but I think this is a pretty rich place to move. So what then do the people that are trying to do what you're trying to do what I'm trying to do, that are trying to have conversations, what do you do in the midst of a world that is about ad hominem attacks, personal attacks, you know, what people now are calling cancel culture and mob outrage to silence everyone? What do you do? Because I sense that it may not just be enough to talk about the right ideas.
No.
That at some point you hit the end of the road with that.
You're doing it well, David. You're doing it well. You know, I commend you for it. You're not a provocateur. You are not stirring up people to be angry.
I'm a little worse on Twitter. In this room, I'm very good.
But you are intelligently engaging, and that's what we are doing. You know, I'm 73 now. I've been in this work since I was 26. I've done it for nearly half a century, as long as I've been married. I've been on numerous campuses globally, Islamic campuses, Hindu campuses, Buddhist campuses, atheistic campuses, and I was given an honorary doctorate from a Marxist university in Peru, you know?
Wow.
And San Marcos, an honorary doctorate I was shocked. And but the first time one of my colleagues went there, they blocked them. They didn't want to hear them. And I said, what happened? How come? And they said, you know, you're getting us thinking noble thoughts, good thoughts. You're getting us thinking in the ways that we ought to be thinking. We've not reached there yet. So I believe ultimately God gave us a book, which means the word is very important. And just speaking nearby the night before I'm speaking to you, the number of young kids who said, I watched you on YouTube. I've listened to this, I've listened to that. I think our only hope without coercion is to put the ideas out there and hope that hearts will change and that truth and beauty will win out in the end, rather than that which is hideous and that which is false.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about spirituality instead of nonstop yelling, check out our spirituality playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out our full episode playlist. They're all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.